right. Hello, everyone. It's great to have you on the stream tonight. It's great to have you on the stream this evening. And it's another time with the enthusiastic tutor. And in today's tutorial, it happens to be the second tutorial of the course, POL121, right? Which we discussed about the history, all right? Looking down, okay? We are looking deep, diving deep into the history of Africa, all right, and how and some certain things that the colonial masters did, all right, did during there was some certain things that colonial master did that left a very serious imprint on Miss Bassi. You're highly welcome. It's great to have you on the stream. Mr. Emmy, also great to have you on the stream. All right, so just gonna continue from yesterday's from where we stopped yesterday. Okay, so today, without further ado, we're talking about the politics, all right, in the pre-colonial era. We said something about pre, post, okay, and we said pre is before, and we said post is after. All right, so we're going to be talking about politics, okay, politics in pre-colonial Africa. In pre-colonial Africa. So what we are saying in essence is we're talking about what was politics like before the colonial stepped their foot on Africa. All right, what was politics like, or the nature of government? All right, when we say politics, when we say government activities, when we say the ruling, all right, ensuring peace and order, all right, defense, okay, and economy, all this put together, what was it like before the inception of the colonial administration, the colonials? All right. So with this being said, let's discuss a thing or two. Okay. Apologize for that. I think that was a thing with that network. It's a good thing we're back. So as I was saying, politics in pre-colonial Africa. All right. Now, politics then is rooted. All right. Politics in pre-colonial Africa was rooted in tradition. All right. Rooted in tradition. All right. The sole determinant of political activities, all right, the sole determinant of political activities during this era, all right, is tradition. Okay, tradition determines politics. Okay, tradition determines the activity of the government. Okay, tradition determines the activities of people in position of authority. All right, everything was guided, everything was ruled, everything was put under control according to tradition. Okay, and now we refer to this as, back then we referred to it as a traditional society. Okay, so the society, just like as I said earlier on, just like we have in our recent time, just like we have the democratic society. All right, then it was not, it was traditional society, because everything, right, is geared, all right, controlled, everything is under the influence of tradition. And when we say tradition, talking about the customs, all right, customs of specific people, All right. Now, this traditional society that we're talking about in Africa, all right, is referred to then as what we refer to as territorial, all right, or tribally defined, all right, territorial or tribally defined. Okay, basically pre-colonial, all right, pre-colonial politics in the pre-colonial era in Africa, like as I said earlier on, is basically determined by tradition. All right. So further explain this, it is also said that this traditional society is territorial. All right, tribally defined. All right, based on tribe. And this tribe, what differentiates them from other tribes? What we do here is quite different from what they do there. So it's all restricted, it's all limited to tribes, tradition. All right. Now, and then, okay, all this existed, before the intrusion of the colonial rulers. All right. That was before the intrusion. When we say intrusion, you just come without formal expectation or formal introduction that you are coming. Came out of the blues and you want to take over, or you took over. All right. Without this was before the intrusion of the colonial rulers. Okay. Now, then in the colonial, before the colonial, the pre-colonial Africa, all right, we have rulers, traditional rulers and chief, who constituted this tradition. All right, during the pre-colonial Africa, we had traditional rulers and chiefs. All right, we have in places of authority, in offices of authority and positions of authority, we had occupying such positions, we have traditional rulers and chiefs. Okay, traditional rulers and chief constituted traditions, right? Constituted, all right, constituted what I refer to as tradition. All right, tradition or traditional, okay, tradition or traditional policies, whatever we want to put it. But basically, it's all about tradition, and it's all about the traditional rulers and chief during this era. All right, now we have that as that. All right, so the kind of authority exerted during this time is also said to be what we refer to as traditional authority. All right, traditional form of authority. All right, and here, under this traditional form of authority, it is actually characterized by what I call charisma. All right, characterized by charisma. All right, which is more of self, all right, personalities or qualities. Self slash personal qualities. All right, authority here is characterized by charisma, which is more of self and personal qualities. Okay, now to modern, all right, to modern or European society, now structurally differentiated and complex. All right, the pre-colonial African state was structurally, all right, differentiated and complex from the modern social society, from the modern European society. Okay, now the pre-colonial, the pre-colonial African state, all right, the pre-colonial African society or African state, and I just try to use states in place of society. All right, the pre-colonial African society, all right, is what differentiated from the modern European society in its structure and complexity. All right, different to modern, all right, different to modern, European societies, all right, by structure, okay, structure and complexity. All right, structure in the sense that the way things are being run. All right, okay, Miss Bassi said I should explain from the traditional chiefs. All right, now from, like I said earlier, we are talking about what politics was, during this era. Now, there's an era referred to as the pre-colonial Africa. All right, pre-colonial Africa, and we said pre means before. Colonial here is a short for colonization. All right, so we are talking about what politics was like before the intrusion of the colonizers or the colonial rulers or the colonial masters. So what exactly was politics like before their intrusion? Okay, and according to what we said earlier on, we established the fact that there was a system that was working perfectly in Africa. All right, different parts of Africa has a system working perfectly for them. Sure, there will definitely be shortcomings, all right, but there was a system that was working. There was a system in place, all right, and this system is solely dependent, all right. The source of this system, all right, is based on the tradition. Every society has their tradition. Every state has their tradition. And it is this tradition that determines what the politics or what the political activity or what the governing activity of that state does. Miss Bassi, do you get it up to that level? Miss Bassi, now, we now said this system, what is referred to as a traditionalist system that is tantamount to a traditional society. All right, and we said this society is territorial or tribally defined. All right, then we said in this tribal society or in this society, all right, in the ends of affair, we have traditional rulers and chiefs. Those are the people that occupies offices of authority. All right, those are the people that occupies offices where decisions are being taken. All right, the use of traditional rulers and chiefs. All right, they are the one that constitute the tradition. And let's not forget, it is this tradition that determines the politics. Is Bassi, are we all together on that? Now, speaking of which, The kind of authority then in this era is referred to as the traditional form of authority. Awesome. Yes, and this traditional form of authority speaks a lot about the leader's charisma. It's a very important thing. It plays a significant role in the leadership, the charisma or the personal qualities of these leaders. These are great determinants for you to get to any position of authority during the pre-colonial African era. All right. So now we have that as that. I believe that is settled. Then we proceeded and we said the pre-colonial African state, all right, is differentiated, all right, to the modern European society in the sense that its structure and its complexity made it stand out. The structure in the sense that how things are being done, the processes at which things are followed in order for it to be done, and how complex, how difficult, how challenging is the system, all right, is way different from that of the European state. All right. And on that note, we're going to be taking this quick one. It says here, now, it says here that the traditional society are pre-industrial, not just industrial. They are pre. They don't run out of seasons. They are pre-industrial. They think, all right, even before the time of being productive. They are not just industrial, they are pre-industrial. It's like we say be pre, all right. Now the what? They are what? Industrial, all right, simple, and also agrarian based. That is the major agrarian. Agrarian based society. All right. Agrarian based society. All right. Which is the traditional agrarian based society, which is a traditional society. Okay, so we have that as that. Now let's proceed. Erase this quickly. Now let's hear what Mengistu. All right, Mengistu. Now let's hear what Mengistu said in 2003. Now Mengistu in 2003 said something about the pre-colonial Africa. All right, he said the pre-colonial Africa had a rich tradition of what? Political, economic, and social institution, all right, that dealt with the allocation of resources, lawmaking, and social control. According to Mengistu in 2003, regarded, all right, the pre-colonial African as a society a society rich, a society with a rich tradition, all right, a rich tradition of a rich tradition in economy, politics, and social institution, and they even know how to what share and allocate resources, make law, and control the public. All right, which shares resources, make law, and maintain peace and order. You can imagine what it was like before the intrusion of the pre-colonial rulers, for the intrusion of the colonial rulers. All right, a rich tradition, all right, with good economy, political system, social institution, all right. They also share their resources perfectly, all right, make law and maintain peace and order. The system works. Okay, now, or it was working then. Now we also have that as that. Now, before the colonial penetration, it is impossible to speak of a single political system. Just like, unlike now that we can have that functioning, right? Impossible to speak of a single what political system. Why? Why is this so? Now, the system, okay. Now, African has a various system in different parts of Africa. So why it is very difficult. Now, before colonial penetration, it is impossible to speak of a single political system in Africa, since there are various systems in different parts of Africa. All right, impossible to speak of a single political, okay, system, since there were various systems. All right, since there were various systems, so it's very impossible to speak of a single political system. Okay, now I'm going to be highlighting some points that we need to pay attention to very quickly. Now, the first point, unlike modern system, there were no elaborate. Now, in the case of pre-colonial Africa, all right, unlike the modern system, here in the pre-colonial Africa, there were no elaborate legislative, executive, judiciary, and bureaucratic institution to maintain law and order and adjudicate in disputes. All right, it's nothing like that, although they have their own locally devised way on how they solve or handle situations. Okay, now, okay, the first point, the first point is that now there were no elaborate legislative, no no elaborate legislative, all right, no elaborate legislative, executive, no elaborate legislative, executive, and judiciary. All right, it was just moderate. All right, they were able to still maintain peace and order, okay, with the pre-colonial Africa. All right, now we have secondly, 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 we have the model of governance was not embodied in a written document. All right, no written constitution. All right, now mechanism of government does not intrude into private realms of individuals and groups. Instead, pre-colonial society lived by unwritten constitution based on custom and convention. All right, so there were no written constitution. All right, constitution here constitution here is based on custom and conventions. All right, is based on two things, or are based on two things: the custom and the convention. All right, so we have that as that. Now, thirdly, now it's also incorporated we have the system of check and balance. All right, the system of check and balance. All right, also to also sanction and ensure that everything is going on properly. Right, these are the three things that these are 3 points we need to understand that happens to be the order of the day during this era. Okay, now we have now the major feature of traditional Africa was decentralization. Decentralization of governance and authority was the major feature. The major feature a major feature of pre-colonial Africa, the major feature during this era is that it was made apparent, all right, the what? The decentralization decentralization of what? Of governance and authority in the mind of Africa. Decentralization of governance authority, governance and authority in the mind of Africa. All right, so we have that as that. Now, African form of democracy, which is based on, now, during this era, African practice a kind of democratic society. All right, and in this democratic society is based on what we call consensus. Consent, all right, is based on what we call consensus, which is another word for agreements. All right, reaching an agreement, collective agreement. It's democratic society. All right, and here it's based on consensus, which is another word for striking an agreement. All right, it's close to what we some time call post-independent African leaders caused in democratic centralism. All right, as to what we now call demo centralism. Okay, demo centralism. That's the modern transcription of this. All right, but back then, this democratic society is referred to as, a system whereby it's based on consensus, which is on general and a collective agreement. All right, very close to what we sometimes call democratic centralism. All right, so Ligis in 2000, made some contribution as well, and Ligis said that the system here, right, is to curb centralization of power in the institution of somebody, in the institution of an individual. All right, now according to Ligis, now Ligis in 2000 made some points. Now he said 1, 2, 3. All right, now he said the very first thing he said about this era. Now he said this era is particular about curbing the concentration of power. Now, when we say decentralized, what are we trying to talk about? We're talking about how you can break down, how you can reduce the concentration. All right, so Legis now is saying that this era is characterized by 3 points. First, curbing concentration of power in an institution or person, which gives rise to what we call separation of power. All right, which gives rise to what we call separation of power. Now, he also said that averting the emergence of a rigid hierarchy, all right, which is devolution of power. Devolution of power. All right, avert, all right, to put, all right, a continuous end to a thing, all right, to avert the emergence of a rigid hierarchy, all right, devolution of power, and lastly, avoiding the settlement of disputes through adversarial procedures. All right, through adversarial procedures, which gives rise to what? Alternative dispute resolution. All right, alternative this alternative that's dispute resolution. All right, so we have that as that, you know, and we have that as that. And on this note, we'll call it a wrap for today's class, and we will continue from where we stopped in the next class. So I believe you've been able to gain a thing or two. All right, I believe you've been able to gain a thing or two in today's class, and I look forward to getting our notes. It is expected of us to drop our notes in our respective classes, so I will monitor how well we have been observing and following the classes. All right, thank you very much, everyone. I look forward to seeing us in subsequent tutorials. Bye.